Alright guys, going inside the shop today. We are doing an exhaust manifold on a D22 2.5 litre Nissan Navara. Common faults on these, so we'll walk you through the process and what it takes to change the manifold. Alright guys, today we are dealing with the broken manifold issue on a 2.5 litre D22 Navara. I've already taken the liberty of removing all the top bits because they're pretty self-explanatory. I think we can all understand that the intercooler comes out. So we can gain some access here. You can see down here we've got a big old crack in this particular manifold. This is a fairly common fault on these vehicles. This one already has a 3-inch exhaust on it, but it is brand new. The common cause for this issue is the exhaust. The stock cat converter starts to build up over time and generates excess heat in the manifold itself, which causes the cracking problem. Thankfully the manifolds are readily available for this vehicle, so replacing it's not that big a deal. So I'm just going to go roughly through the steps. I've got the top off. I'm just about to remove the dump pipe from the back of the turbo. We'll drop out the turbo, get the EGR out of the front of it, pull the manifold out, have a look at that, and we'll start putting the new one in. Alright, so I've backed off all the dump pipe bolts, one and two of them actually. They're still hanging in there. The design of this dump pipe is it's got 2 bolts to go into it, and they can't come out far enough to pass the firewall. So the next stage is releasing the turbo anyway, so today is our lucky day. I'm just going to break all those loose there, turbo down and forwards, dump pipe should go backwards and out of the car. Then we've got pretty good access to this. Next up we have to drop the alternator, because there is bolts for this fellow here that require us getting down. See this bolt here? There's another one down below it, so the alternator has to come out of the way to access that little fellow. Simply drop this bracket and we'll swing that out of the way. Alright, with all the bolts undone, which is literally just this one here, 2 down here, leaving everything else in place, we can just remove this bracket out of the way, which is our tensioner, the alternator. You can see down in here, we can now get access to that bolt down there. Because this piece has to be taken out this way, because it's got studs down here, it obviously can't be released up or down, or the manifold can come out. So we just need to get this little fellow out of the way. That's going to give us the ability to move the manifold backwards. There's that little fellow out. You can see that it just opens up our access here, because these 2 studs fire backwards. It's going to make it a lot easier for the manifold to come towards the side of the car. You don't actually have to remove it from these studs here. Once you've undone it here, the whole manifold will actually have enough room to move across the top of the alternator here. But it just makes it easier. It reduces the length of it and makes it a little bit easier to get out, and it doesn't take that long. I will probably put it back in with this piece bolted on, purely because this lower bolt for putting it back together is a bit difficult to get to. Not that hard, but anything that is less difficult to reassemble, and I'll take that. Rightio, so with all these bolts undone, all I've done is push the turbo down. There's just a little bit of movement in the lines. It's under tension there, but it's just sitting there. The dump pipe's unbolted and released down lower, so it's just floating. Undo all the bolts around her, and with a little bit of a wiggle and a jiggle, we are free of the engine bay. Okay dokie, this is it. Funnily enough, this is actually sealing. Not far off letting go, but it was actually sealing. There's our crack right there. He goes a fair way around. Oh, he goes all the way around. There you go. That one has definitely had it. There is no coming back from that. So, Nissan do in stock, they always have this manifold. Now, there is a company in Toowoomba, I'm trying not to show the bloke's name, Armstrong Nissan in Toowoomba. They do these manifolds. There you go, $522.95. Super duper cheap. I don't know how they do it. They're cheaper than anyone else by a couple of $100. So that is what she looks like in her new condition. Look at that. Brand new, genuine. Genuine's the only way to go. What a stunning piece of gear. That's going to solve all the issues of this little truck. So that's us. I've got a whole new genuine Nissan gasket kit and all new Nissan studs. Whatever you do, don't do this without putting new studs in here. As much as these usually come apart without breaking, although you do tend to lose 1 or 2, we didn't today. I've just got an issue with this fellow here. He pulled through, so I'll have to do a repair there, but other than that, the rest of it was fine. Generally, if you try and reuse the old studs when you go to do it up, they will just tear out. They'll be had it. when you generate enough heat to crack a manifold as badly as this has, all your hardware needs to be replaced as well. Gaskets, bolts, the whole show. If you don't, you are just cheating yourself. And you know, I know it's not nice, they're like $10 a stud, but when you've come this far and spent this much, you don't want to go backwards. This is the last time you ever want to do this job. Just wreck the part number. Anyway, 1400, that one there. That's the part number you need. But anyways, I'm going to go clean up the surface inside the vehicle, lay up some new studs, and we'll put this thing back together. Alrighty, with that cleaned up, we'll move on to our next box of genuine Nissan parts. There's our brand new nuts to go on it. Our nice new gasket. There's that guy. Our new turbo gasket. Our EGR gasket, because we need one of those. And our brand new studs. Stud fitment's quite easy. We're going to use a bit of anti-seize on this end after I go over there and quickly run the tap through all the threads to make sure they're good. And then they are the E10. Find the right spot on here. E10, we can see that just there if we get the right bit of light. And they're actually quite a firm locator. It does a nice job of it. So you start them by hand with anti-seize on them. We just want to run them down until they touch and nip them. We don't want them to be tight. Just hanging in there is all they need. Over tighten those. We start stretching threads on both sides and we'll end up with all sorts of issues. We don't need that. Our new genuine gasket goes in dry. Do not, under any circumstances, put silicone on this thing. This is designed to work dry as a multi-layer stainless steel gasket, and it will seal perfectly. New studs, a new gasket. We have a new gasket on our turbocharger inlet, and I refitted this guy outside of the car with bolts instead of studs because it makes the future serviceability of this part and the EGR cooler much easier, and that will one day be a problem. So nice little handy hint there. Alright, let's do a quick recap. Dump pipe's reconnected, exhaust is connected down low, turbo is bolted back to the manifold is bolted back to the head, EGR is bolted back to the manifold and back to the EGR cooler. The tensioner is now back on for the alternator and that is all buttoned up. That completes all the large, roughly annoying components. Put the heat shield back on top of there, reconnect our coolant line here that I've got crimped off, and we can start dressing the engine again. Heat shield goes in, glow plug rail, turbo pipe crankcase hose, that goes on next. The intercooler, we are getting very close. And finally the air intake hose. And that completes our reassembly. Whew. Start this one up, I guess. Off she goes, back out into the big wild world. So that's it. That's the 2.5 litre with the common issue. It's a similar issue on the D40 as well as the D22 for what it's worth. So that is that one. As always guys, thank you so much for watching and we'll catch you on the next one.